Bonsoir gang, I'm very excited for today's episode because I finally get a chance to share some film photographs that I've made in this incredibly beautiful country called France. I thought I would do something a little bit different to normal today, so all of the images that you'll see today are unedited lab scans. That's no saturation adjustments, no contrast adjustments, no exposure adjustments, straight raw scans from the lab. There's a very good reason for that. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy some film photographs of the lovely France. Let's get the gear out of the way quickly. I was shooting the Beast, the Mamiya RZ67, which was very kindly donated a roll of Portra 400 by the legend Harmonix himself. You can check his YouTube channel out over here. If you'd like to be as cool as Harmonix and donate some film to the channel, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description box below the like button. I was also shooting the trusty Olympus XA, which had a roll of Superior 400 in it, which I had found in a random camera shop in London. Despite living most of my life in Johannesburg, I really don't like cities. I'm not a fan of the hustle and bustle of the urban environment, but there was something very special about Amiens, and I felt myself compelled to go out every single day and make photographs of it. It's probably been my favorite city that we've been to on our whole Euro trip. So if you're ever in France and you're looking for something a little bit away from Paris, take yourself to Amiens and thank me later. The next part of this video is a little bit of a comparison. You see, I had one roll of Lomo 400 left, and I wanted to compare that to Portra and see why I was paying so much money for Portra compared to Lomo. So I took my Mamiya to a small town called Reberois, which is about an hour outside of Amiens, and I made some film photographs, and I compared Portra and Lomo on the same day. This was my favorite shot in the whole video. It just screams France to me for some strange reason. I think it's because the garden is a bit haphazard and the tools and the paraphernalia are just like left a little bit untended to, but in the background there's just beautiful fields that stretch out to the horizon. This just is France for me in a nutshell, and I love this shot. After watching Raymond Pembroke's video on photography cliches, which you can find over here, I had a little bit of a change of heart about shooting classic cars. I am not as much as a car nut as I used to be, but I can certainly appreciate beautiful cars, and I've always hesitated shooting them, but I saw this car and I had to shoot it in honor of my Gibbon bro, Rayman. So thanks, man. So why did I include raw lab scans in this video? The answer is pretty simple. I wanted to be able to compare the characteristics of Lomo 400 and Portra 400 and determine which one I was going to be picking from now on. When I got the images back from the lab though, I was pretty shocked. The results are very, very similar. There are characteristics of Lomo that are evident in these raw scans, namely that it has a little bit more of a punchy contrast and saturation than Portra. It also has a smaller dynamic range. However, I was incredibly happy with the images that I was able to get on Lomo, and I think I preferred the Lomo over the Portra. This is the worst scientific comparison of these two film stocks that you'll find on YouTube, because I compared Lomo and Portra at various different times of the day. But I wanted to see what these two stocks would do in similar conditions, and I have some notes about Portra and Lomo that I'd like to discuss in conclusion. The first is that Portra probably handles shadows a little bit better than Lomo. Lomo has a tendency to crush things because of its contrast. So you'll see a lot more detail when you're shooting the shadows in Portra, and you may be able to recover detail from the shadows in Portra a little bit better than you would in Lomo. But then the colors for me are better in Lomo. I feel like they're a little bit more accurate and a little bit more punchy. There's something about the greens and the blues in Portra that just feel a little bit muted. Even the reds, I would say. Lomo just handles those primary colors a lot better, and as a result the whole image looks a little bit more punchy and vibrant and true to life than something like unedited Portra. The last thing I want to mention is that the dynamic range in Lomo 400 is not nearly as bad as what I thought it was going to be. Portra is known for its dynamic range, and with Lomo being a little bit more contrasty of a film stock, I was surprised at how much detail there was in the shadows and in the highlights when I shot Lomo. So, to answer the ultimate question of this video, is Lomo better than Portra? I'll say yes, and not only because of its very similar results from the lab, but because it's nearly £4 cheaper per roll than Portra. The prices of Portra are just insane nowadays, and I can't justify shooting that type of film at that price when something like Lomo exists at a much cheaper price point. Let me know what you think about all of this. Did you prefer the Portra? Did you prefer Lomo? Are you still shooting Portra? You must be rich. Thank you so much for watching this very unscientific approach to testing two different film stocks. I'm so happy to be shooting film again, I'm not gonna lie. I really enjoyed these images, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Bonsoir, mon ami.